All right, go ahead. You should be good to go.
Okay, so our group was on tort reform in the healthcare industry. We were group 12. My name's Kaylin. I'm Michelle. And so I'm just going to start out with the definition of tort. Tort is a legal term describing the system of compensation utilized by the courts to affix remedies, awards, and damages for harm done by one party to another, be it to their person, property, or other protected interests. Tort law defines what constitutes a legal injury and establishes liability. Tort reform, then, is the political term for the controversial issue of reducing tort litigation, awards, damages, and/or compensation. Tort reform isn't just one idea or law. It's a group of ideas and laws designed to change the way our civil justice system works. While each tort reform law is different, they all share one or more of the following goals: to make it more difficult for injured people to file a lawsuit, to make it more difficult for injured people to obtain a jury trial, and to place limits on the amount of money injured people receive in a lawsuit. Many people refer it as tort reform because they don't believe that the proposed laws will actually reform the system, but will instead shift the balance of the scales of justice.
Okay, the next section is what do tort laws cover and are they necessary? Tort laws cover injuries caused by one person to another. Torts usually involve physical harm, though they may also involve other types of harm, such as economic loss or emotional injury. The usual remedy for a tort is payment of monetary damages to cover the victim's losses. Some common torts include product liability, slip and fall accidents, simple assault cases, and malpractice suits. There may be some overlap between tort and criminal laws. Tort is necessary because it decides whether a person should be held legally responsible for injury against another and what type of compensation the injured party is entitled to. There's two types of torts. One is intentional and one is unintentional. And then there's just a little kind of picture there explaining like in depth more of what types there are, and I don't know, you can kind of read through that, like the strict liability, gross negligence. There's all kinds of different torts that you can be liable for. And then, so Texas had sort of a mess of their tort system back in 2003. Actually, I believe it started in 2000, and then 2003 is when they started to do some changes. 1 out of 4 doctors in Texas had a malpractice claim filed against him or her each year, which is a lot of doctors, and 85% of all medical malpractice claims filed failed and still cost more than $50,000 to defend. The number of medical malpractice insurers in Texas dropped from 17 in 2000 to only 4 in 2003. One of the 4 was the state of Texas as the insurer, which is like a last resort kind of insurance. As a result, doctors left the state, limited their practice, or retired early. Texas had one of the lowest doctor-to-citizen ratios in the country, and it was getting worse. What I thought was really kind of interesting was that there was no neurosurgeons south of San Antonio, and 100 Texas counties did not have a pediatrician, which is crazy to me. And 154 did not have an obstetrician. You can just scroll. And then, so they decided, Texas did, they're now kind of known as the tort reform state. Tort laws were revised, and they put like a limit or a cap was placed for monetary damages for medical practice claims. So the state now limits a victim's recovery for non-economical damages to $250,000 from each physician's involved in the medical malpractice case, with a $250,000 cap against any single institution and a $500,000 cap on all healthcare institutions combined. Since the introduction of Texas's cap for medical malpractice, thousands of doctors have relocated to the state and set up their practice. The cap on damages has served to protect the doctors from frivolous claims where patients seek to recover an excessively high amount of money for minor injuries.
Okay, Obama excluded tort reform from his latest addition to the healthcare industry, which was Obamacare. If cost control were really the ambition, some ideas favored by Republicans, such as limiting the awards available to patients who sue their doctors, tort reform would have been adopted. The Obama White House stood in the way of limiting excessive payments to plaintiffs. Why, after all, would they bite the hand of the tort bar that so generously feeds them? And then at the Northern Virginia Town Hall meeting in August of 2009, the former chairman of Howard Dean explained why Obamacare would not be included in the tort reform provision that, according to many experts, would have saved up to $40 billion in healthcare costs each year and $400 billion over a decade. Here's why tort reform is not in the bill, said Dean. When you go to pass a really enormous bill like that, the more stuff you put into it, the more enemies you make. And the reason the tort reform is not in the bill is because the people who wrote it on did not want to take on the child lawyers in addition to everyone else they were taking on. And that is a plain and simple truth. And then we just have our works cited.
Great. Great job. That was a really good job. Tort reform is huge in healthcare, as you both have illustrated really well. Torts are, we don't want torts are part of the reason that are driving up the cost of healthcare. So, Michelle, you mentioned in your part of the presentation that several of the doctors relocated to Texas and opened practices there because I can almost guarantee that their cost for malpractice insurance is a lot less because you have that cap. So they don't have to worry about being sued for millions upon millions of dollars. So yeah, great job for both of you. I just want to ask you both the same question really quick, just and then we'll stop the recording. But same question for both of you. We'll start with Kaylin. The question, just what was the biggest thing that surprised you or that you enjoyed the most about studying tort reform?
Well, I think the biggest thing I learned about tort in general was just I didn't really know a whole lot about it, which is why I wanted to do a presentation on it so that I could learn just in general what it was. And I didn't realize how, how big of a deal it was and how controversial, I don't know if that's the right word, but how people just really want for it to be passed, but then Obama didn't include it in Obamacare, and I think that was just the thing that surprised me the most was that he couldn't, find out a way to put it into Obamacare. But yeah, he decided to pass it without putting tort reform in there, and I think that's what surprised me the most.
Michelle, same question.
So I think for me, I also had no idea what tort was, but just in looking up kind of the history of it, like when I was looking up all the stuff that happened in Texas, it kind of gave me a better understanding of what exactly it was and a better idea of what's been going on. I know that, like, I feel like it is important, like she said, because otherwise you get things like happen in Texas and people are just, like, there was just thousands of articles that I saw that were like, people would just sue for anything. I mean, and maybe not even the fault of the doctor, and they were just getting away with a lot of stuff. So I feel like it was really important to kind of reform that. And yeah, I learned a lot. I had no idea about, I don't even know, I'm like, tort, what in the world? But right. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what it is now. So.
Funny word too, tort, like Pop-Tart or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But,
yeah.
Well, great job. So I'm going to stop recording now, but I do have another question for you guys off the line.